so happy to have you watching today with Marilyn and Sarah. What an honor to get to be with you. And I know as you're watching, all of us have stuff that we struggle with. You may be in a difficult financial situation, struggling in your job. You might have some health issues or some relationship stuff. And often we have some emotional challenges and hot spots for us. And I just encourage you, hop on the phone, get on the website. We would love to pray for you because we know that God answers prayer and God does amazing things because of prayer. And I have a tremendous honor to get to introduce you today to one of my good friends, Margaret Feinberg.
Hello.
Margaret, thank you so much for being with us.
You are welcome. I'm excited.
Oh, I know, me too. And I'm really pumped because I've known you for how long, but not everybody in our audience gets to know you as well. So give us a little background, thumbnail. Who are you? What have you done? And then let's jump in because we got some exciting stuff to talk about today.
Yeah, as you know, I come from a bit of an unusual background in that I was raised by a Jewish father and a Gentile mother, and both came to recognize Jesus as the Messiah. As a kid, we moved around a ton, lived in Florida and North Carolina before settling in Colorado, and I met my 6'8" amazing husband up in Alaska. So we lived up there for 5 years, and I can honestly say it's good to be back in America.
Sure.
And that's a joke, by the way. I know Alaska is part of the United States. But you know, for the last probably 16, 17 years, I have been writing books and Bible studies and have the privilege of traveling and around and teaching not only within the United States, but also sometimes around the world. And it is just a delight to get to open up God's Word and have it come alive in a fresh way.
Totally, and you've written well over several dozen books and all kinds of Bible study stuff. And we talk Bible and that's like, you know, that's love language, right?
Yes.
Totally.
Yes.
But I'm so pumped about your new book, Fight Back with Joy. Such a great book because everyone in the audience, we all struggle from time to time with this idea of joy. Sometimes it feels like a cliche. Oh, well, the joy of the Lord is your strength. What the heck? You know, what's that supposed to mean? So walk us through what it means with joy. What is that all about?
You know, it's interesting when I started to look at the more than 400 references to joy in the Bible, I started to notice some things that nobody had ever taught me before. You know, if you look in Galatians at the fruit of the Spirit, what you'll discover is that right after love is joy. It is the second one listed. And I believe that joy emanates out of the abiding sense of God's fierce love for us. That when you and I know that we are so loved by God, we cannot help but percolate, to bubble up with joy. But as I also started to look at joy, I started to see how many expressions there are in the Bible. Did you know that in Hebrew, there are more verbal and word expressions for joy than in any other language?
You're kidding.
Isn't that fascinating? So you've got delight and merriment and laughter and blessing and being blessed, taking pleasure and finding pleasure, all these different expressions. And so we have the sense that God, within whom his right hand are joys forever, that he is so generous, he just wants to shower us with this joy. And so when I define joy, I define it as a spectrum of emotions, actions, and responses that include all of these various expressions. So sometimes we feel joy, but sometimes we act in joy or we respond in joy. In other words, sometimes you feel like a joy and sometimes you don't. But regardless, you can still act in joy, you can still respond in joy, and no matter what situation you're in, you can fight back with joy.
That's really powerful. And I know that there are people watching right now that you don't feel very joyful. In fact, you're in some really difficult situations. And in a minute, I'm going to ask you, you know, because sometimes we have this idea, I think sometimes as Christians, we get in this world of like, quote unquote, denial. And there's some tricky parts with that. And I wanted to ask you a little bit on what that means with rejoicing. But if you're struggling with the issues in your life and you're just lacking joy, we'd love to pray for you. Get on the phone, get on the website. And we're going to be obviously talking about Fight Back with Joy, this amazing book. But how do you deal with rejoicing but not living in denial?
Yeah, you know, I was really challenged with this. I had spent a year studying joy and was putting the final touches on a book when I received the news that I had cancer and entered into a deep, dark battle from the last year and a half with this vicious disease. And that shifts the lens of life. Because suddenly you're no longer looking for joy in the happy, the perky, the relatively smooth times, but you're searching for joy in the deepest, darkest, most painful, torturesome times. And I thought, man, how do I fight back with joy in this? How do I discover that more than whimsy, joy is the weapon we use to fight life's battles? And there were so many days that going back to the hospital, it was so hard. I mean, there were weeks I would spend up to 40 hours a week in the hospital and just going back appointment after appointment, treatment after treatment. And this wasn't just for a few months, this was for 18 months. And you think, how do I do this? And I remember getting in the car with my husband and I would just be sobbing. And I remember this passage that's based in the book of Habakkuk. And it's a familiar passage to some, but it's a declaration that he makes in Habakkuk chapter 3, verse 17, where he says, though the fig tree should not blossom and there be no fruit on the vines, though the yield of the olive should fail and the fields produce no food, though the flock should be cut off from the fold and there be no cattle in the stalls, yet I will exult in the Lord. I will rejoice in the God of my salvation. And I thought, wow, that is incredible. But how do I do that? How do I do that in this difficult situation? How do you do that when you don't have the money to pay the bills? When you're receiving the letters of bankruptcy and foreclosure in the mail? When you're looking at a difficult diagnosis? When you're looking at the photos of the person who you loved so much who is no longer here? How do you do that? And as I wrestled through, committed to fight back with joy, I discovered that the secret is that you do it 1 square inch at a time. And you choose to rejoice in this square inch and this square inch and this square inch as you start moving through in life. And what I began to do on those drives to that hospital is we would play that song by Matt Redman, 10,000 Reasons, that proclamation of gratitude and thanks to God no matter what may come, and we would sing it over and over again. And what I began to see, Sarah, is that there are hospital rooms and waiting rooms that can be transformed into portals of praise. There was this one day when I remember climbing into the MRI machine, that machine I like to call Ride the Donut at the hospital, and they put you in this long tube and sleigh, and they lay you down, and a voice that you can barely hear is telling you not to move and to be very still. And I remember laying there and thinking, but has anybody praised God at this latitude and this longitude today? And ever so weak, I began to offer up those words of praise to God. You see, I don't know where you're facing right now. I don't know what your situation is, but there is a place today where you can start claiming that square inch in praise and worship of God. Maybe that place is in your classroom. Maybe it is in your workplace. Maybe it is in your house. Maybe it is in your child's bedroom. Maybe it is in your retirement community. Maybe it is in your bed on that pillow with those salty tears you cry at night. But where is the place you can choose to rejoice to God when it makes no sense? Mm-hmm. It is a powerful way to fight back with joy.
Right. And you may be watching right now and you say, wow, I don't know how to do that. Because it's a shift. It's a complete shift. Hop on the phone, get on the website. We would love to pray for you, that God would help you to shift. And it's a shift in the way you perceive, the way that what you high value, what's prioritized, how you see. I mean, it's a fundamental shift.
It is, and I think one of the things that can happen, whether it's a cancer diagnosis, whether it's a divorce, whether it's maybe you grew up an orphan, whether it's a diagnosis, or you can have a label that is thrust onto you that you never signed up for, that you never wanted. Maybe you're a convict or you're a felon, whatever that label may be. And it is so easy when those labels are thrust on us to feel like things happen to us and to start taking on that victim mentality, that sense of being powerless, that sense that, well, these things just keep happening to me. And there was a time when and I still do, I struggle with that because I didn't sign up for cancer. I didn't want this. And sometimes it does, it feels thrust on me. And I feel so powerless. But when we choose to praise, we take back the power because we call on the one who has all the power, who holds all things together. And we can start breaking out of that victim mentality and declare and become victors as sons and daughters of God.
Yeah. And you know, when you talk about taking 1 square inch at a time, I mean, that's a very present moment. And it's not necessarily focusing on the victim or the label or the powerlessness. It's shifting the focus off of that stuff.
It is.
How do you manage that?
Yeah, you know, when I thought about joy, and this may sound so simple, and if you look at the cover of the book, the image that I put on there was and asked for was a red balloon. And I think that helium-filled red balloon is an image of what I feel like joy does inside of us. When we grab a balloon, when we grab onto joy, there is something about it that lifts us up. There is something about us that makes us more nimble so that we can overcome no matter what obstacle or hardship is before us. But joy does something else, because as we grab onto that red balloon, you can't help but look up. It redirects our focus, and that's what rejoicing does, and praise. It redirects our focus from the problem and the crisis at hand to the God who has all power to heal, to restore, and to hold all things together. But there is a third thing that joy does, and that is, if you are holding a red balloon, you cannot help but draw others near. There is this curiosity, this beauty, this kind of drawing in that happens. And when you walk in with joy, people are drawn toward you, and more importantly, the Christ in you. I remember this one day when I was in the nurses' station, and this woman said, why are you not devastated? Why are you not just bawling? And I said, well, I think partly because I'm in shock. I said, but also because I've chosen that I'm going to fight back with joy. And she looked at me and she said, wait, you're going to fight back with what? I said, well, I'm going to fight back with joy. And she said, well, where do you get this kind of joy? And I had the opportunity to share the goodness and the faithfulness of Christ with her. And so there is this opportunity that opens us up as we are God's window display for his goodness and his kingdom to others, to invite them in.
And it's not just window dressing.
No, it's a full-on pull those window shades back and see the goodness and the faithfulness of God, even in the most difficult of circumstances.
Dark, bleak, seemingly hopeless. And it's not just plaid, it's not the cliche, it's not just the attire, it's all the way core. So we're going to come back here in just a little minute. We're going to talk some amazing stuff. Oh my goodness, life-changing things in this book. So I want to encourage you, but stay with us, but also hop on the phone, get on the website. We would love to pray for you, because I have no doubt in my mind that you're watching now. Many of you are struggling with finances, struggling in your health issues. You got relationship issues, you got emotional stuff, you're looking at future decisions. We'd love to pray for you.
Joy is stamped on coffee mugs, sewn onto decorative pillows, even displayed on dish soap. But what if there's a deeper power and purpose to this mighty virtue? Through vulnerable storytelling, a difficult diagnosis, and humor, Fight Back with Joy by Margaret Feinberg reveals how joy is more than whimsy. It's the weapon you can use to fight life's battles. Learn how to escape fear and regret by applying biblical strategies to whatever crisis you're facing. Overcome depression as you reignite your imagination for laughter and celebration. Discover freedom from the past by learning how to turn mourning into joy. For your gift of $25 or more, we'll send you a copy of Fight Back with Joy. We'll also send you Sarah's New Beginnings CD that will guide you in finding renewed hope that your future can be different regardless of your past. Receive this life-changing set and embrace a life that's richer and fuller than you've ever known before. A life radiant with joy. Call or click today.
Thank you so much. We're so glad to have you with us today. And I have my friend Margaret. And Margaret, we're talking about your amazing book, Fight Back with Joy. Okay, I just want to tell you, you need to get at least 3 to 5 of these, because you've got friends, you've got book clubs, you've got Bible study groups. You know people, you know at least half a dozen people who are struggling with joy, who have gone through bad diagnosis with health, with finances, relations, all kinds of stuff. So grab several copies of this. And of course, you have this really cool Bible study that's amazing, got DVDs and all kinds of teaching stuff. Great, great resource. Hop on the phone, get on the website. This is absolutely an essential that you need to have. And I love it because it's super, super practical. But Margaret, when you get the diagnosis of cancer, people just aren't really excited to line up and say, woo, yay! How do you deal with that?
You know, it was interesting. This is not my first, I would say, rodeo with adversity. We've had different hardships, but this was by far the most difficult and longest. And I think I probably, and we experienced what many experienced, even the oncologist warned us. She said, Margaret, some of the people who you think are going to be there will not be there, and people you don't expect are going to come out of the woodwork. And we're like, oh, no, we're Christians. And so we kind of nodded and patted, you know, like that's not going to happen to us.
Yeah.
And yet what we found is what happens, I think, to so many people, and that at the news of an incredible hardship or a difficulty, whether it's foreclosure, the loss of a job, that there's not a job found immediately but can go on with unemployment for months, if not years, when you find out about maybe a cheating spouse or a divorce, that people often will appear initially, and yet as the weeks or the months go on, they disappear. And we all know that the healing and the restoration that needs to take place, it's not over when the divorce papers are filed. It's not over when the funeral ends. It's not over when chemotherapy ends. And that it can take months, if not years, in order to heal and to experience that restoration and wholeness that God wants to bring into our life. And I really struggled with that, because there were several months in, I woke up and I went, where did everybody go? And I think a lot of viewers have experienced this as well. And then starting to recognize that people started to do exactly what the oncologist had said. They started to pop out of the woodwork. But they weren't the people I expected. There was like this motley crew from all these different areas of our life, and some people I didn't know very well. And I thought, what is this? And I remember praying and going, God, who are these people? And then I recognized what they all had in common. Every single person had experienced great loss, pain, or adversity. These were people who walked among the fellowship of the afflicted. These were the people who, when pain happened, they weren't scared and ran away, but they ran in. And I think that's who we're supposed to be as the children of God and as the church. We're meant to be the people who run in when everybody else is running out. But a lot of times I don't think we do, because we don't know what to say and we don't know what to do. And sometimes being afraid of saying the wrong thing or doing the wrong thing, we don't say anything at all.
Right, right. And I love, because in the back, oh my goodness, you have this amazing, fantastic list of 5 things to say when you don't know what to say. And I love that. Because people, and I get it. It's like you don't know what to say, and so you kind of dance around it, don't bring it up. Do you say the C word, you know?
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
And super, super practical, helpful, and essential. And we're not going to tell our audience what these are, because you have to get the book. Duh. Hop on the phone, get on the website. You're like, just even for these 5 things that will help you what to say when you don't know what to say. And I love it. And it's really essential for us who follow Jesus. How do we do this in really dark situations? We have friends, we have family, our own selves. What do we say? What don't we say? But you know, some of the other things in here that are so powerful, and I love this, chapter 6. How to throw the best party ever. A party in the middle of, oh my gosh, awful stuff. I love the preceding chapter, tearing your hair out, and mourning. Not mourning as in the sun comes up. So good.
But learning how to mourn well. You know, I never thought that losing my hair would be a big deal. I'm not, I'm a Colorado girl, and so I love to be active, and I don't always feel like I have to be perfectly put together every day. And I thought, oh, hair loss, no big deal. Except that on day 17, I lost all of my hair, and it would fall out in these huge clumps. And I remember going to the barber shop to have my hair trimmed. And before she picked up the clippers, at that point, you could just lightly pull and it would fall out. And I just said, could you just give me a minute? Because I just need a moment. And so I started reaching at my own hair and just pulling it out and just tearing it out in clumps. And it didn't hurt at all, but by the time I was done, there was this mound of hair at my feet. And I realized that it was one of the first times that in the midst of suffering and pain that I could actually have some sense of control of how this part of the loss took took place. And it was a profound shift in me. And it opened up a door in my heart to realize that I needed to learn how to mourn and mourn well. And that's something that's not often taught in the church. Growing up, we go, oh, they've died, and so they're with Jesus. But we forget Jesus wept, even though we knew he was going to raise Lazarus right back to life. And that we have got to learn how to mourn. And so I thought, how do I do this? And I actually went to a very unusual place, and I went to Jewish mourning practices and rituals. And I began to study how the Jewish people do funerals. And one of the unique things that they do is often at the start of the ceremony, those who are mourning will wear a shirt, and they will make a small cut toward the top. And then they will rip the shirt as a sign of mourning. And there's this prayer that they will pray out loud as they do it. And it is this, it's from the book of Job, a man who knew much about mourning and grieving. And it is this prayer that says, "Blessed are you, Adonai our God, ruler of the universe, the judge of truth." It is a proclamation of who our God is, not just in the best of times, but also in the most dark and difficult ones. And then it is this declaration that is found in Job: God has given, God has taken, blessed be the name. And it is that choice to bless him in the moments that we feel so unblessed. And there were so many points of incredible loss through all these surgeries, losing hair, losing body parts, losing so much of my life, my energy, that I remember there were times that I would go and I would put on a shirt in my own bedroom, and I would make that little cut, and I would pray this prayer, and I would rip. And it was like this set apart, sanctioned place for me to mourn with God, for me to let it rip with God, so to speak. And all I can describe is that it was like the blockage in my communication with God had been dislodged. Suddenly I was able to communicate with him more freely, pray more freely, reconnect with him. And I think often the places that we get stuck, not just in our present hardships, but in our past, are in those places where we don't learn to mourn and mourn well. And in fact, joy comes in the morning, not just in the daybreak of morning, but in the morning. There is a commingling of tears and laughter and joy that takes place as we rend just our garments, but our hearts before God and invite him in.
That's really powerful, because I don't think we associate, well, I certainly don't, joy and mourning. Like in my mind, those are opposites.
It appears that way, and yet in the emotional structure that God has given us, if we don't learn to mourn well, okay, if we try to medicate our pain and our losses with whether it's food or alcohol or drugs or busyness or whatever those things may be, then essentially we shove down the mourning, and it doesn't just affect our ability to feel sad or to get stuck in that sadness. It actually shrinks our bandwidth and our ability to experience joy. And so when we mourn well, when we allow the river, the tears to flow, it washes away debris. It wipes out, it cleanses, that joy would also be expanded in that place. I think that's one of the reasons that Jesus says, blessed or happy are those who mourn. Those who mourn are going to live a healthier life. Mm-hmm. So let those tears flow with God. He collects them in a bottle. Not one is wasted.
And that's not anti-faith.
No.
I mean, that's faith deep in the weeds of our everyday living.
It is.
Totally deep. So, Margaret, boatloads of thanks. Appreciate you being here today. And of course, just encourage you, hop on the phone, get on the website, Fight Back with Joy. Such a powerful, powerful tool, resource, book for you, for your family, for your friends. Margaret's got this amazing Bible study that goes with it, so you can do it in your small groups, your Sunday school class. You can do it in your book club. You absolutely need to get this book. And as you read it, I know that God will speak to you. And whether you're in difficult situations right now, or you have a friend, or you've been through difficulties, there are strategies, there's hope, there's future, there's joy for you as you fight back with joy in difficult situations and in life, just everyday living. So hop on the phone, get on the website. God has joy for you.
Joy is stamped on coffee mugs, sewn onto decorative pillows, even displayed on dish soap. But what if there's a deeper power and purpose to this mighty virtue? Through vulnerable storytelling, a difficult diagnosis, and humor, Fight Back with Joy by Margaret Feinberg reveals how joy is more than whimsy. It's the weapon you can use to fight life's battles. Learn how to escape fear and regret by applying biblical strategies to whatever crisis you're facing. Overcome depression as you reignite your imagination for laughter and celebration. Discover freedom from the past by learning how to turn mourning into joy. For your gift of $25 or more, we'll send you a copy of Fight Back with Joy. We'll also send you Sarah's New Beginning CD that will guide you in finding renewed hope that your future can be different regardless of your past. Receive this life-changing set and embrace a life that's richer and fuller than you've ever known before. A life radiant with joy. Call or click today.
We are so excited to invite you to join with us on an amazing, powerful group trip to Argentina and Uruguay. While we're there, we get to see all kinds of amazing things. We get to visit Colonia and Uruguay, plus we get to tour the burial site of Evita Peron and tour around Buenos Aires and see amazing sights there. And Mom, the best part of the whole trip is that we get to minister.
Yes, we do. And we get to minister in a hot situation because revival began there 60 years ago and the whole nation is being shaken. So we will be involved in healing meetings, in youth meetings, in street evangelism, and Uruguay. We believe we're going to have a big healing meeting there also. How wonderful. And we will be in this beautiful city founded in 1680. Call. Bring people with you. Let the Holy Spirit shake you and use you.
I have my good friend with me who's written this amazing book, Fight Back with Joy. Margaret, this is an awesome, completely amazing book. Why should our viewers get it?
You know, I spent more than a year studying the more than 400 references to joy and happiness and merriment throughout the Bible. I was starting to lay hold of this expansive understanding of joy when I got the news of a cancer diagnosis. And I was thrust into one of the most painful, difficult, torturesome circumstances in a year and a half of my life. And in that darkness, I began to discover joy in a whole new way. That more than whimsy, joy is the weapon we use to fight life's battles. Because sooner or later, all of us wake up in a battle. Sometimes you pick the fight, and sometimes the fight picks you. You can't always choose your fight, but you can choose how you respond. You can be someone who fights back with joy.
Joy is stamped on coffee mugs, sewn onto decorative pillows, even displayed on dish soap. But what if there's a deeper power and purpose to this mighty virtue? Through vulnerable storytelling, a difficult diagnosis, and humor, Fight Back with Joy by Margaret Feinberg reveals how joy is more than whimsy. It's the weapon you can use to fight life's battles. Learn how to escape fear and regret by applying biblical strategies to whatever crisis you're facing. Overcome depression as you reignite your imagination for laughter and celebration. Discover freedom from the past by learning how to turn mourning into joy. For your gift of $25 or more, we'll send you a copy of Fight Back with Joy. We'll also send you Sarah's New Beginning CD that will guide you in finding renewed hope that your future can be different regardless of your past. Receive this life-changing set and embrace a life that's richer and fuller than you've ever known before. A life radiant with joy. Call or click today.